wake up, it's time to be free. Wake up, was blind, now I see. Wake up, it's time to be me. Wake up, my mind is the key.
Wake up, it's time to be me. Wake up, my mind is the key.
All right, welcome. It's Jullien Gordon, and I wanted to welcome you to another episode of Daily Jules, where I give nuggets of wisdom to help you increase your degrees of freedom. Does not matter how many degrees you have. The only degree that matters is your degree of freedom. Doesn't matter how much money you make. The only thing that matters is how you actually make money. We've been duped and indebted to the education system that has not taught us how to be free and actually to create freedom for ourselves. And the purpose of the Freedom School is to do just that, where I share everything I possibly can to help you have more freedom in your life. And so with that, today I want to talk to you about how to be free before 40. How to be free before 40. How to be free before 40. I believe that is possible for absolutely everyone. And I want to guide you through the process to how to think about that. So, how to be free before 40. So, the reason I created the Freedom School was really thinking about my daughter. Boom, can you see her? My daughter. And saying, what would Jada have to know by the age of 18 to be able to create the life that she truly desires? And to be honest, I don't believe there's anything really in a college degree that she would have to know in order to create the life that she desires. Will she go to college? Honestly, I don't know. My hope is that over the next decade or so, I create enough knowledge base where she could actually just learn from her father and just go watch my videos and my trainings and have everything that she needs to be free. Of course, she's going to learn it naturally just by being here with me. But that is the goal of the curriculum, because I believe that freedom is our birthright, and we all deserve it, and we're meant for it. But somehow the world has been designed in such a way that restricts our freedom as it expands it. And so I want to show you how this ends up happening in terms of us not being free. The first question is, how free are you? How free are you? How many of you could take a one day off and not have to worry about money or answer to anyone? Okay. How many of you could take 5 days off and not have to worry about money or answer to anyone? How many of you could take 2 weeks off and not have to worry about money or answer to anyone? How many of you could take a month off and not have to worry about money or answer to anyone? How many of you could take 2 months off and not have to worry about money or answer to anyone? Right? Less and less hands go up. And I just believe that you were too smart and too hardworking to not be able to live the life that you truly desire. That's just point blank. That you have to trade off or sacrifice some of who you are, your purpose, in order to live the life that you're meant to live. I just don't believe that. And so I want to share with you how this programming happens to us and how to avoid it. So what happens is, from 0 to 18, we all go through a stage of programming. And this is pure indoctrination, primarily from our parents, teachers, and preachers. Pure indoctrination. We're not really in control of our thoughts at that time. We're more just receptive. We're learning. We're taking it all in. And we're being indoctrinated and programmed with how they think about the world, right? With how they think about the world. And that's valuable. But I also, even as I raise my daughter, I want to be very wary of how I'm programming her, because I want her to be a free thinker. Not regurgitating and living out daddy and mommy's thoughts, but actually to be a free thinker. And the reality is that a lot of adults have not had an original, authentic thought yet. All of their thoughts have actually been implanted by someone else. I mean, 30, 40, 50-year-old people who are just living out a combination of other people's thoughts. In a lot of cases, still living out their parents' thoughts and views of the world, despite being adults themselves, right? And that's because of this programming phase, where we're open and we're receiving, and we haven't stepped into thinking for ourselves. We're just regurgitating other people's thoughts. Okay? So from there, we go through 19 through 22. And for many people, this is college. And for me, this phase was actually deprogramming. This was deprogramming. Now, this is where I started to release and challenge old beliefs and thoughts that I was taught by parents, teachers, and preachers. So I read something like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that challenges my thoughts that I was taught about money and saving and things of that nature. Where I was taught to go get a job, right? Now I'm thinking about creating jobs, right? Where I was taught religion in one way, but now I'm thinking about it in a different way. So now I go through this process of deprogramming, right? And that's through inspiration, and I'm actually starting to become an individual. Because here I was not an individual. Right? I was a replica, a small version. Even though I don't have Junior in my name, I was a small version of my parents, right? So now, through deprogramming, my mind starts to empty, right? I start to, erase some of the thoughts and programming that I had before, and I start to experiment and explore new ways of thinking about all the things that I was taught, right? And I start to recognize which thoughts were mine. Oh, that's not really from me, and that doesn't really resonate with me, even though that's what I was indoctrinated to believe at a certain stage of life, okay? So from there, we go through what I call 23 to 30. This is the 8-year period, and I call it reprogramming. This is when I was actually reading the most. This is when I was hungriest. This is when I was thirstiest for knowledge. I went through a reprogramming phase where I was like pumping through books, right? After leaving my quote-unquote learning phase of college, where I had to read other people's books, this is where I was reading by choice, right? Reading because I was thirsty for knowledge about all kinds of different subjects and topics, right? All the way from money to spirituality, right? This is where I went through reprogramming and started to create my own frameworks and ideas and mental models for how the world actually works and operates, right? And you could call this your incarnation, right? Where you actually are stepping into who you truly are, right? I think at 27 is, or something like that, is your Saturn's rising and things of that nature. This is the reprogramming phase, but you are doing the reprogramming. There's nobody out there that's programming you. You're probably not living at home. You're probably, for me, I was away from my parents at that time, so I was able to finally think for myself, right? I was able to think for myself, hear people's thoughts, but then create my own, right? Hear people's different thoughts and opinions, but then form my own thought about it, right? So then, in order to be free by 40, once you do that, you go through this phase where you simply run the program. You run the program, right? And if this programming was done right, this reprogramming was done right, because if you follow this programming, you would simply replicate your parents' lives. But if you follow what your parents did in today's world, you likely won't get what they got, right? Because the world has changed dramatically, right? So if you went through the proper programming here with your thoughts, and you have more of the thoughts that are aligned with how the world actually works, not what you were taught, then if you simply just run the program from 31 to 40, which is the phase that I'm in, then that's actually what gets you to freedom. If you run the program, but it's not just about running the program, we have to make sure that we reprogrammed everything properly, right? By learning from not our parents about money, but from actually wealthy people. Not just accepting the religion that we went into when we were kids, but reading the spiritual text for ourselves and actually coming up with our own thoughts and forming our own individual relationship with our source. not just accepting the subjects that we were taught and trying to master those and get a 4.0, but actually looking at the subjects that are important to you that you want to master and mastering those. And if you've done that properly, then you simply run the program from 31 to 40, and that actually puts you on the path to freedom before 40. Freedom before 40. I believe this is possible for absolutely anyone. And some of you may be like, Jullien, I'm already behind. I'm over 40 years old now, and that's okay. You still have to go through these 4 phases and recognize that this phase occurred, and then come here to the deprogramming phase. What old thought patterns do I need to release, right? Because you can't pour new wine into old wineskins. So recognizing the thought patterns that you were taught and indoctrinated with that are holding you back, right? And then replace those with new thoughts that are actually going to free you, right? Not just doing what you're supposed to do, but doing what actually is going to free you. And then executing and running that program for a decade. And if you do this properly, you will be able to have freedom at 40. Yeah, many of you will be able to imagine retiring before your parents. If you wanted to. Like, I don't have any intention of retiring. I love the work that I do. I'm going to do this work probably till the day I die, right? But imagine being able to retire before your parents or with your parents. If you just follow their footsteps, you're not going to retire before them. You'll retire after them, right? Exactly 18, 24, 20-something years after them. But unless you do something different, then that actually puts you in position to retire with them or before them, right? So this is how I approach it. Again, if you feel like you're behind on this schedule, recognize that this occurred. Think about all the things that you were programmed with, and then start here at deprogramming. And because you're adult and you are more aware now, actually, there's 2 things. One, because you've been still living out this programming for a long time, it may be harder to uproot. But you also may be more self-aware that allows you to uproot it faster and get through these 3 phases a lot faster. Then you start your 10-year run. Okay? The reason I structured it like this, well, it just is structured like this. But I was talking to my daughter's chess teacher, and he said, here's how I teach her chess. First, I just let her play. I just let her play with the pieces and show her how the pieces work. Right? And get familiar with them. Then we formulate the larger objective, which is check and checkmate, right? So she's already been familiar with the pieces, even though there was no objective. Then we get familiar with the objective of the game. Then he says he brings that down to the present moment, which is now what is the objective of the first 3 moves of the game. In fact, in chess, I think there's a 3 to 4 move sequence that you can do and checkmate somebody in 3 to 4 moves if you were strategic, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to get, I don't know, whether it's corporate America, whatever it is for you, whatever is binding you, whatever doesn't have you free, you actually want to put it in checkmate as quickly as possible, right? And these are those first 3 moves. And then I expect and I want long life for you till 50, 60, 70. And we already talked about 80, 79 being the average lifespan. But then that gives you half of your life to actually experience freedom. Not to say that you weren't free here, right? But that gives you half of your life just to actually be in freedom. Not moving towards it, but actually simply be in it. And I believe that you can be 80 and vibrant. I believe that you can be 80 years old and vibrant. Especially if you didn't get wrung dry by being in certain work environments that weren't aligned with who you are for another 25 years here. That'll wring you dry, and then the 65 to whatever, that's no fun after that because you're just worn out. You don't want to do anything, right? So this is how to be free before 40. Of course, there are certain decisions around money, around assets, around family, who you marry. All those things impact this, but you got to go through this process. We all got to go through this process. If we just adopt this process, then we are simply living out our parents' lives in today's time, which is a terrible strategy. It's a terrible, terrible strategy. All right? So this is Jullien Gordon with another Daily Jewel on how to be free before 40. And I hope that it blessed you. Wishing you more degrees of freedom, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I hope these mindsets, metaphors, and methodologies blessed you. If you desire more freedom, go to getfreenow.com to subscribe to the show on iTunes, YouTube, or Facebook, and get 4 of my best courses in the Freedom School for 100% free.